Togga is back, boys, which means it's preview time. And I nearly forgot because I'm never on previews, but for some reason I was super duper shit last time out. It's been an eventful international break. We've had tears, we've had toys out the Iran, we've had anger, we've had bites on the fishing trips. There's been an international competition, which SDP was brilliant, by the way, and we've nearly started the cup. All that in a little 2 weeks. But let's get the previews underway. Tie number 1 is one of the crybabies, actually, and we're calling it the SAR debut. SARR. It's MSAR, who Phil Ragg has, and he's ever-changing name, versus ISAR. And talking about ISAR, Tupac, your team is a bit of an eyesore this season. You need to make some sexy trades, pal, to get your team a little more horny. But let's have a look at the lineups and see where the points are going this week. So next we've got Edison versus Lloris. Now I think both of these are going to score well because Everton have been kind of shite since Calvert-Lewin's been out. And I can see City keeping a clean sheet. However, I don't envisage them having many shots on target. So I think Edison will be a steady Eddie as long as they keep a clean sheet. Lloris, on the other hand, I think might be the opposite. They've been conceding a lot of goals, even under Conte. But once they've settled and they've had a bit of time now to get his 5 at the back under control, I can see Lloris. Maybe he's keeping a clean sheet, but if not, Leeds always offer a threat going forward, so you'll probably pick up a lot of saves. So I'm probably giving that one to Tupac in the keeper department. Now looking at defence, Tupac, you are quite poor. You've got Semedo the pedo, who used to be good, and I think everyone's had a little nibble of him, but he's yet to pull out the figures that everyone thought he would. Pinnock at the back, who scores well for Brentford, but I'm hoping that Newcastle are going to score loads of goals under Eddie Howe, especially this weekend. And Togga, again, you know, everyone's hoping he regains that form of old Togga returns, but this season Burnley have been leaky at the back, sack and crack. And he's up against a real good defence in Phil Ragg. He's got Trent. Now, although they're playing Arsenal, who have been on an upturn of form, I think Liverpool have got a point to prove after their last run out. Wigan's wrong, Ragg, is he's got Chilwell and Alonso in. Now, I will eat my own foreskin if both of them play, so he's going to have to choose whichever one starts. But on the positive note, one of them is definitely going to start. And they normally score well, Thomas Tuchel's fullbacks. And then he's got a choice between Cash or his bench. He's got quite a lot of defenders. Sarr being one. He's got Van Dijk. He's got Barry White. So he's got a lot to fill in defence. So I can imagine Phil Ragg getting 5 at the back this weekend, which might be his downfall and the only thing that's going to get him out of the win. Because everything on paper is pointing to Phil Ragg, other than the midfield. So when you come to the midfield, Phil Ragg got lucky with his Conor Gallagher pickup, but he's been immense since he's had him in the team. So that's good. But Norgard and Klitsch are these only 2 starting midfielders. Now, I've had Klitsch for a while, and he's scored well for a couple of games, and he's went off the boil. I think without Bamford in, Klitsch doesn't play as well in that number 10 role. So he's been messing around with Rafinha and Rodrigo, and I don't think Klitsch is fitting into that as well. So I think Ragg might need to get some reinforcements in midfield if he's going to be Tupac, who has got Gundogan, who's going to be definitely playing now. KDB is out again with COVID. I think he's got Willow in there. Now, Willow, I think, is going to get a start under Eddie Howe, and he's going to flourish. I think he's going to get him in that little sexy number 10 role as well, and we're going to be going gung-ho. So Gundo, Willow, and he's got Bruno, who's a points machine as well. So I think, even though he's got Antonsen in, who might do well in under new management, but I think that midfield's enough for Tupac to see that through. Which brings us on to the forwards of the two. Ragg has got a sexy forward line, whether or not he keeps it or not. He's got Mane, again, he's definitely going to start, definitely going to play, and I think they're going to be wanting some revenge. and coupled with Wilson, again, one of the BJ's old boys, I think he's going to be rejuvenated under his old manager, and he will play well at the weekend. He's up against Jimenez, Edward and Cornetto. Cornetto has been a great pick by Tupac, by the way, and Edward and Jimenez will score well, especially if Edward plays. So that could go either way, because Tupac's fielding 3 strikers, but I think Rag's 2 strikers are going to score really well. So if we're needing a settler, we're going to be looking at the benches, and the benches, we've got Iniacho, Albanyamam and Rich T, all for Rags, Babes, or whatever he's called these days. He's got a lot of options on the bench, Rag, you see, to mix it around. Where in comparison with Tupac, the Chudley Cannons, they've got the likes of Jansen, Bazooka, an injured Dominic Calvert-Lewin's not going to be doing anything. I think Tupac is going to have his hands tied. So, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Do you know what it is? If the Togga gods are shining down, it has to be a Tupac win, just because of Rag's petulant behaviour over the last 2 weeks. However, I cannot see Rag's random form stopping anytime soon. Do you know what? These players, he's got a good mix of luck and quality, and if he keeps Mane this weekend, I think he's going to win the game. If he flogs Mane, I think he's trying to flog him to Colon, still to Bry, Cowpat, anyone who'll take a little nibble. I think if he gets rid of Mane, it's Tupac's. If he keeps him, it's on Rag. So the next tie is called the Animal Feces Derby. It's the manager of the original Finley Ala Pupu, aka Dog Turd, versus Cowpat. And I think it's quite fitting, because both of these managers are canny plop. So let's have a little delve into their teams. We've got another Saw for Dan. That's Watford's keeper, Saw, versus Allison. Now I can see both conceding goals this weekend, especially the Wolves keeper, because Wolves up against West Ham. West Ham are scoring for fun this season. Allison, I can see it going either way, but I'd probably say that Cowpat's got the upper hand, because I can see Allison keeping a clean sheet and making a few saves. Going into the defence, now both of these have got canny plop defences. Dan the man has got Gabriel. Dreams can come true. Who's obviously up against Liverpool, who are going to want to seek some revenge after the last outing. He's got Luke Shaw, who could keep a clean sheet, but you never know. Watford pumped someone by 5 the other week, so you never know with Claudio. And he's got Ben Johnson. Now, Johnson has not had enough coverage in the Togga League. I mean, not only is his second name the name of a Willie, his initials are BJ, so his name BJ Johnson. That is immense, and he's quite good, turns out, keeping some good players out the team. So when you're looking at this lineup, you're normally thinking, right, that's a canny shit defence. But when you look who he's against, Cowpat's got Pereira, I think Leicester against Chelsea this weekend, and conceding for fun. Pereira's not the player of old. He's got Keane, who's up against Man City, definitely going to be conceding. And Timiyasu, the fullback for Arsenal. Arsenal up against Liverpool. So Chelsea, Man City and Liverpool is what Cowpat's up against. So I'm giving that one to Dan. Moving into the midfield is looking a bit better for Cowpat. He's got Blue Cantrell, who I think is going to start doing well under new management. However, he hasn't been getting a lot of minutes, so I can't see him getting 90 in this weekend. But he's in the midfield as a make up for it. He's got Foden, who will definitely play, especially now KDB's out. He'll do the creativity. He's got Maximus, who's going to be on a one-man mission, like he always is, but actually under some decent management should do well. And he's got Ward-Prowse, who always is a steady Eddie. He's also got Saka, who's a good player, but again against Liverpool, still too much though, because he's up against Smith Rowe, Henderson, Mackham already goes against him, and Westwood. So, do you know what I mean? It's never going to work. He's got Johnny McGinn, who I think will do well. I can see that being a Stevie Gerrard type of player. He's going to like him, but not enough in the midfield. So the midfield will go to Cowpat. Going up against the strikers, these strikers, all of them are enough to make any man's bum sick. You've got Gray, who's up against City, Pukki, who's always dog shit, and he has got Vardy, Dan, who normally does well, like actually against some decent teams, but you know, Chelsea don't concede a lot of chances, so Vardy's going to have to take him. And then looking at Cowpat, he's got Dennis from Alfreda St. Pet up against Manure, and he's got Zaha, which, you know, he is actually doing a bit better now, but a couple of seasons he's been a damp squib. So I'd probably, just the fact that Dan's playing 3 over Cowpat's 2, probably give it to Dan, but that one could go either way. So looking at the bench, who could change things? Dan is probably going to change things in his defence, because he's got Matip and Tomiskas, and I think Robertson got injured in internationals. Tomiskas is probably going to play. Matip will probably play. So he's probably going to put them in instead of Gabriel. Or he's got Taherney, so you definitely put him in front of Gabriel, dreams come true. But he's probably going to drop the Arsenal defenders and put these Liverpool ones in. He's got Mount and Traore. If them two are playing, they're both going to be starting. So Dan has got a lot of power on the bench, as opposed to Cowpat, who's got Sterling. Now I think Sterling's only actually featured in 2/3 of City's games this season in the league, and I think he's only started 2 out of 3 of those ones. So Sterling's been a bit of a poor signing. Werner's just come back from injury, so he's probably not going to play. He might come off the bench. Doucouré's very similar. He's come back from a bit of an injury. He said he's fit, but whether or not he plays or not, but if he does, he's up against the City midfield. Pepe, again a BJ's old boy. He's up against Liverpool if he plays. And he signed Big Joe. Now, I think Big Joe is actually going to do a lot better under Eddie Howe. It's unfortunate he's classed as a striker, because everyone knows he's not a striker. But I do think that might not be a bad pickup for Cowpat. And if he's got any chance of winning this tie, I think he's going to have to start Big Joe. Otherwise, I think it's Dan wins the Animal Fizzies derby. So the next tie, you wouldn't believe, it's another derby. It's Battle of the Bait. It's old Pineapple Head versus Chocolate Packed full of fudge. The SS versus the RR. So we've got the Scranton Stranglers versus Rolo FC. So let's see what we're up against here. What have we got? We've got in the net, yeah, this is too dark to even see. In nets, we've got Martinez versus Jordan Pickford. Now this one will be a tricky one. One's a gamble and one's a steady Eddie. I think Martinez was decent up until obviously Villa started doing really shit. Pickford, in fairness, is a good shot stopper, got an old key pass in him, but Pickford's up against Man City. So Colon's going literally for as many saves as possible, and hopefully that outweighs as many goals he's going to concede. I can't see him getting a clean shit. Martinez, on the other hand, I can see him getting a clean shit and getting some saves in there. So it might be a little bit more of a gamble to take on Martinez. However, if Colons does pay off, that is some excellent and bold management right there. Do you know what, I might have to pull in to see the defenders. Oh, it's fucking having this light on. So in defence, Gabe's got Reguilon, Robertson and Rudiger. Now I'll tell you straight up now, Robertson might be a bit of a gamble, because I'm sure he limped off midweek for the jocks. So he might have to be already be getting into his reserve players. Rudiger's normally a steady Eddie, but I think he's up against Leicester. Leicester have got a goal in them, especially against Chelsea. And Reguilon, I think Reguilon, eventually we're going to see the best out of him in Conte's system. So 1 out of 3 is bad, I think. I think Rudiger's steady Eddie, Reguilon good, Robertson, if he plays, brilliant, but I'm not so sure that he's going to. And he's up against Colon's defence, who's got Liam Cooper, the BJ's old stalwart. Me and Colon have sandwiched Cooper over recent times, and he's normally really good. He can get double figures even when they're not having a clean sheet. However, I'm pretty sure he hasn't had double figures in at least the last 3 or 4 weeks. So that's going to be a bit of a gamble away to Spurs. But he's not a bad one to have. He's got Lamptey. He's old boy. You know when you just associate players with teams, I always associate Lamptey with Rolo FC. And when he does score well and is playing regularly after this injury, I think he will score some good points. Who have Brighton got this weekend as a Villa? I can see that being a draw. So that could be a 0-0 draw. Tight, shady affair. Although if Newcastle can score against Brighton, then I reckon Villa can. So Lamptey might not be on for the clean sheets, but his attacking returns I think will be decent. And he's got Livramento as well, and I think Livramento has been a great pickup. He is decent, and I think Southampton are at home to Norwich or away to Norwich. Either way, they could very easily keep a clean sheet, since they kept clean sheets against some of the big boys. So the defence, I think, I don't know who it's going to go for. Gabe's got Steady Eddie, good, and a potentially dropped player. Colon's got Cooper, who I don't think will keep a clean sheet. Lamptey and Livramento, I think that's going to tie. It's going to be too close to tie. But when you go to the midfield, this is where I think this tie is going to be won and lost. This is going to be great, because what Colon's done is went all out gamble, but if it pays off, it's going to be sexual. He's got Thiago, Barnes and Moura. Now Barnes and Moura and Thiago, because he's just come back from a layoff, are not likely to complete 90 minutes. However, they are, if they are on fire, they can get assists, goals, key passes all over the shop. So it could either pay off, but it's got to pay off in a short period of time, because I don't think any of them will complete 90 minutes. But then he's got Trossard, who's Steady Eddie. He's been having some good returns in, and he's likely to complete the 90. On the other hand, for Gabe, he's went against the gamble, and he's went total Steady Eddies. He's went Souček, Townsend, Fornals. They're going to get you, around about the 10-point mark averaging. And then he's got Havertz as his only gamble. So it's the opposite, 3-1, 1-3. Whereas Colon's went 3 gambles and 1 Steady Eddie. He's went 3 Steady Eddies and 1 gamble. His gambles Havertz if he plays, and if he does play, is he going to score points? Which then brings us to the strike force. Now I think this is the best battle of the strike forces of all the matchups this weekend. 2 strong lineups. They've got Adams against Norwich, Rashford against Watford, and Salah against doesn't matter who, he scores well. So you would normally think that's a winning strike force. But then Colon's got Kane, who's going to be off, he's off the back of 7 or 8 goals for England or something. Then he's got Jesus, who's scoring well, even though he's not scoring. And then he's got Ollie Watkins with a point to prove with his new manager. So that could go either way as well. I think it's going to be a tight tie. So we're looking on the bench, who can swing it either way if they need to rely on their benched players. Gabe's been to and fro with Mitchell and Fraser, back to Mitchell. Mitchell is actually one of my waivers. I think he's good. He's probably going to end up in his team in the expense of Robertson. Then he's got a lot of average players, Madison, March and Diddy, King. These are all players he's only going to be playing if he really, really needs to. Looking at Colons, he's got Squirter in there, Duffy in there, who are solids if he needs them, rather than diarrheas. He's then got Harrison and Ziyech, who, if they play, he's going to probably be playing them. And then Benteke, as he's back up, he's probably going to drop him if he doesn't need to. It's a little bit of to and fro. I don't know which way this is going to go, but when I'm looking at it, I like that Colon's gone for full-on gamble. That's proper Togga for me. So if you had to pick a winner for me, I'm going to go for Rolo FC in this tie. So the next tie, it's not really a derby as such. In fact, I'd say it's probably the opposite. It's the person who pays the least attention to Togga and lineups versus the person who puts every single second of his life, including Brian, stop crying. Brian's over for tea and he's whinging on. So the person who puts most of his time in, Plops versus Brian. Let's call it the Chesney Street Derby, the Crocs Derby. Well, I think both of them are probably too young to ever go to Crocs, but let's just call it the Crocs Derby. So in nets, it's McCarthy versus Pope. Now, I think both of these could be the highest two scoring keepers. Brian, tea will be ready. Chicken dippers, 5 minutes, pal. McCarthy's up against Norwich. Might have a point to prove under the new management, but McCarthy normally does a lot of saves, as will Pope, because Pope's up against Palace. Now, Palace have been very attacking under Vieira, so that could be a flip of a coin. So moving on to the defence, Plops has scored well with Cresswell over recent weeks. Diaz could keep a clean sheet against Everton. And Salisu, who he picked up, he was on my waiver list. I think he's going to score very, very well this week. Again, against Norwich. Although probably would have been better when he first drafted him, because obviously they didn't know that they were going to have this new manager in place. So he's doubled down on a Norwich clean sheet. On the other side of the water, we've got the player's best game in Reece James against Leicester. So I don't envisage a clean sheet, but very good attack and returns. We've got Jerry Maguire and Matt Target. Two alright defences, actually. They're both just going 3 at the back, sack and crack. You would think Brian, because he's got the game's best player. But I'm actually going to go for Plops to win the battle of defence. I think Cresswell always scores well. Diaz clean sheet and Salisu is going to score very well. So that's going to go Plops. Let's have a look at the midfield. The midfield, both teams have got quite poor midfielders, actually, I think. They've got, in Plops' corner, they've got Janelt for Brentford. I'm hoping he's not going to do too well, because that'll be against Newcastle. He's got McNeil, who's actually scored well, even in games that have played Plop in. Romeu, again, he's won Southampton, but as a defensive midfielder. I think his best bet this weekend is fallen to him by pure chance, and it's going to be Bilver. Now, that's because Grealish is out, KDB's out, Foden's hit and miss whether he's going to even start or not, because something to do with now what Pep was going on about. So Bilver's a guaranteed starter. And on Brian's side, he's got constant good scorer, Rafinha. And then his other three are all going to be chances. Jensen, Rice, I don't know if he's going to be fit, and Callum Hudson-Odoi, I don't know if he's going to play. So there's a lot of chances in there with only one good guaranteed midfielder each, Rafinha and Bilver. And I'm probably going to edge it towards Plops again, which is risky because Brian's had some solid scores, but Bilver's going to play, so Bilver's going to score well. McNeil and Romeo, although he's a defensive mid, he's going to be playing against a Norwich midfield. So let's see what they've got in attack, back, sack and crack. Plops at home has got Ronnie on Aldo, who is playing against a Watford defence. He's got Son playing against a leaky Leeds defence, and he's got Ivan Toney, who's going to have a point to prove against his old club Newcastle. I can see a lot of goals in those three this weekend. Against San Antonio Bay and Benderova Rama, he's putting all his eggs in one basket with that strike force, and he's also got Mahrez in, and I think Mahrez will play again, only down to them injury concerns. But if he doesn't, again, I think it's going towards Plops, and I'm going to say Plops again, you know, for the strike force. So although Brian's tearing it up, I think Plops might have him in all departments, not just one. I think he's got him in keeper, defence, midfield and strike force. Let's see what they've got on the bench as backups. Well, Brian already is sticking with Bamford, who's, I know he's crocked for a while. Tielemans, I think, is crocked. Sancho, is he going to play? If he plays, I mean, he hasn't been playing. He could do well against Watford, but if not, Rodri, Gross. He hasn't got a lot to play with, Bry, actually. Plops, Christiansen, Varane's going to be out. Alianusi, he's got backup. I'd probably be putting him in front of Romero if he starts. Luis from Villa. he was scoring well at the start, I think, but I think he's not doing much since, whether even Gerrard plays him, I don't know. And Rodrigo, BJ's old boy, he's not even going to get a sniff in because Ronnie's son and Tony will all play, so Rodrigo there is never going to be needed. Plops, I think you've got him this week, pal. I think you're taking the crown of Crocs. And last but least, we have the winners' derby, the champs' derby. They call it the Mr. Miyagi derby. It is our current league champion, Sleeve the Perv, versus his master, Mr. Miyagi, the one who holds the most titles, the Bukaki Jackies. He learned from the best, and now he will beat the rest. So, let's see who's up in this tie. In nets, we've got Ramsdale versus Mendy. Now, he's going for a bit of a risk with Ramsdale in the fact that he's probably not going to keep a clean sheet. However, he will be peppered in that goal. No doubt he's going to be getting double-digit saves. He's up against Mendy, who's going to be the opposite. I don't think he's going to be peppered that much, but it's whether or not he can keep a clean sheet. Chelsea must be up there with the most clean sheets of the season, but when he does concede like he did last minute against Burnley, his points go. So I think it's going to be a matter of does he keep a clean sheet or not. I'd actually, controversially, say STP might win that category just because the amount of saves that Ramsdale is going to have to make. In defence, they're both going 3 at the back at the minute. Sleeve's got probably the best defender in the game in Cancelo. He'll play week in, week out, whether it's the right or left, and his attacking returns are sexual. And then he normally just hoys in a clean sheet for good measure. Against Everton without Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he's probably going to get the clean sheet as well. On the other hand, sexy. Kyle's got Kyle Walker, who will probably play, but get absolutely no attacking returns. So the clean sheet doesn't really mean anything other than cancel it out if it's need to be. Sleeve's got Emerson from Spurs, who's an old BJ's boy. I think he's going to start pulling in some points now with the Conte. I think he's going to be probably scoring well this weekend. Very well, actually. A bit scared of that one. But he's got Kufal. Now, Kufal is an old boy of STP, and he's kept faith in him, but I don't think he's been playing much lately. Has BJ not been playing? So I don't even know if he's going to get a start. So I think he's probably going to have to draft in his bench, which I think is either the Wolves full back or Diggsy's dinner. Diggsy's dinner he's probably not going to do because it's against City. Kyle, on the other hand, he's got Thiago Silva doubling down on a Chelsea clean sheet. That could really go tits up. And Bednarak, I think Southampton will do well. Although when sexy Kyle drafted him, he didn't know they were going to have a decent manager in place. So probably doesn't look as strong as it was a couple of weeks ago when he was wavered in. I think Sleeve wins the defence as well. Cancelo alone, I'll probably win that, but Sleeve is going to have to draft someone in, probably for Kufal. Let's look at the midfield. The midfield is went for the treble Bs. Now, the problem with the treble Bs is they're not going to probably get 90 minutes. Buendia hasn't been getting 90 minutes. Niles Barkley has just came in last week. He might play again this week because of injuries, but, big but, he's also got Pulisic in. Now, Pulisic is probably going to be the one who'll have to make way for Barkley or vice versa. So probably not going to both play. They might do, but I doubt it. So that's where he's going to have to start finding some alternatives. He's got Buendia and Bowen. Bowen has been scoring very, very, very well. And he's going to have to basically get the points from them boys. But luckily for Sleeve, if you look at sexy Kyle's team, all his best players have just been absolutely obliterated. I've never ever seen a Togga season like this. KDB just struck down with COVID. Pogba, these two are Togga champs. Just got a hamstring injury or some of his quads during the international break. Both of those were sure on 40 points between them before the international break. Now, both crocked. Eze, is he going to be fit enough to start? I don't know. I don't know if Kyle's going to get 11 out, because with all those crocked, he's only got Armstrong, Luckman, who probably won't play, start, and Redmond. And it's probably going to be Redmond or Armstrong, so it's very likely Kyle's only going to be able to field 1 or 2 midfielders this week. So it's probably going to be enough for Sleeve. And it's a shame because up front, I think that's where sexy Kyle would have excelled, because he's got Adam Armstrong, who's on shit hot fire against the Norwich defence. He's got Danny Ings with a point to prove against Brighton. And he's got Diego Jota, who will definitely start because Firmino is injured. However, on the flip side, the reason why Jota will be playing is because sexy Kyle's striker Firmino is injured. Lukaku, although he's back fit, Tuchel's just said today that he's not playing, so there's another one. And my other backup was Richarlison, but I kind of play it because I'll be playing 3 strikers anyway, so I kind of shoehorn the 4th in. So I know actually straight up now, unless I drop Pogba, KDB, Lukaku or Firmino, which they are all undroppable in my book, I'm not going to be able to field 11. So unless Sleeve has an absolute stinker, then I cannot win this game. He's got Bailey and Greenwood up front. If Greenwood starts against Watford, Bailey does do well. Whether he's going to be in Gerrard's plans is another thing, but he probably is because he looks real sexy. He's benched Trincao, Rashika, Kovacic, Diggsy's dinner, Altnori. Probably a poor bench, but it doesn't really matter because sexy Kyle hasn't got a bench whatsoever. He's got 6 crocked players, so you're already starting with 10. So no two ways about it. There's only one winner of this tie, and that's going to be the current champ, STP.